All right. Hello, guys. Good afternoon or good day to everyone. So, at this time, guys, we will now be discussing lesson 3 of our lesson in Java programming. So, welcome to our third meeting, guys, for this semester. So, this time, this moment, we are going to discuss Java basic data types and variable types. Okay. So, this discussion, guys, I'm going to talk about here what are the different basic data types and what are the different variable types in Java. Okay, so what we're going to do, guys, is I will discuss this Google slide here, and during my discussion, I will show you some examples of Java program using my NetBeans IDE, and I want you to do it as well, guys. When I'm doing some examples, I want you to do it as well, okay? All right, so now, guys, we will start. So let me just present my Google slide presentation. All right, okay, so let's wait for it to load. All right, so our topic for today, guys, is basic data types and variable types in Java programming. Okay, so next slide. So first, let me talk about Java basic data types. So there are different Java basic data types, okay? So the first one is variables, okay? So variables are nothing but reserved memory locations to store values, okay? So it's variables is also like you can say that variables is just a storage of values that we can use in our program. Okay, that is variable. So this means that when you create a variable, you reserve some space in the memory. Okay, so based on the data type of a variable, the operating system will allocate memory and decides what can be stored in the reserved memory. Therefore, by assigning different data types to variables, you can store integers, decimals, or characters in these variables. Okay, so here we're talking about variables, okay? And variables, as I mentioned earlier, variables is like a storage, okay? Storage wherein you can put the values that we can use in our Java programming, okay? And when we create a variable in Java programming, so the system will allocate a memory for that variable, and then the program will decide what to do with that memory, okay? And then in variables we can store integers or whole numbers, okay? That's another term for integers in Java programming or in programming. So integers is like whole numbers, decimals, of course numbers with decimal points, and characters are like alphabets and then the different characters that you can see in your keyboards, okay? So there are two data types available in Java, okay? There are two. The first one is the primitive data types, and the second one is the object data types or the reference data type, okay? So I will discuss these two data types, all right? So first, let me talk about here the primitive data types, okay? So primitive data types, so it's just like prime data types, okay? So there are 8 primitive data types supported by Java. So what is primitive data type? So they are predefined by the language and named by a keyword, okay? Let us now look into the 8 primitive data types in detail. So there are 8, right? 8 data types. So I will discuss here, guys, what are those 8 data types that I'm talking about. So the first one, the first data type is byte, okay, B-Y-T-E. So you can see here the description of what is byte. So byte is an 8-bit. Okay, it's just an 8-bit signed 2's complement integer. So the minimum value of byte is negative 128, and the maximum value is 127. Okay, so byte is for like small numbers. Okay, the default value of byte is 0, and then it is used to save space in large arrays, mainly in place of integers. Okay, since a byte is 4 times smaller than an integer. Okay, so byte is the smallest. Okay, so example here, byte A is equals to 100. So byte is the data type, and then the A is the variable name, and then the 100 is the value. Okay, that's how you declare a variable. So another example here, you declare the variable B. So the name of the variable is B, and then the data type is byte, and then the value is negative 50. Okay, so that is byte. Next, guys, is short. So short is much is bigger than byte. Okay, so short data type is 16-bit. Okay, so the minimum value of short is negative 32,768, and the maximum value is 32,767. Okay, so short data type can also be used to save memory as byte data type. So it is 2 times smaller than an integer. Okay, so the first one is like byte and then short. Okay, so the default value is 0. So I have here another example. So we declare the variable named s, the data type is short, and the value is 10,000. So 10,000 is still included in the minimum and maximum value of short. So here another example. Okay, so next one is after byte. So we have short, and then the next is int or integer. Okay, int is short for integer. So int data type is a 32-bit signed 2's complement integer. Okay, so it's an integer. The minimum value of int is, you can see here, negative 2 billion. All right, and then the maximum value is 2 billion. Okay, it's all whole numbers. So integer is generally used as the default data type for integral values unless there is a concern about memory. Okay, so commonly, guys, if we are going to use whole numbers, we commonly use integer, okay, or int. Okay, so when you're going to program and then you're going to use whole numbers, so it's better for you guys to use int, okay, as a data type. So the default value of int is 0. And here, I have some examples as well. So when you declare a variable integer or int, so int, the data type, int, and then a is the name of the variable, and then equal sign, and then the value, which is 100,000. Okay. And here another example, int b equals negative 200,000. Okay, so that's the int data type. Next is long. So long, guys, is data type that is 64-bit 2's complement integer. So it's bigger than int. Okay, if you are going to use a larger number, larger than 2 billion, okay, then you can use long. Okay, you can see here the minimum and value is here. So I don't know how many is this, but this is a big number. All right, the default value is 0L. So L means long. Okay, and then here is an example when you declare a long variable. So long a equals and then 100,000 L. Okay, so this will the program will tell okay, the L will tell the program, okay, the L will tell the program that the variable is long. Okay, that's long data type. Next, guys, is float. So let's go. Before we move on with the float, guys, let's go back here first. So if we are going to use whole numbers, okay, whole numbers without decimal point. If we are going to use whole numbers in our program, so better to use one of this, okay? Byte, short, int, and long, okay? But I will recommend you guys that you use int if you're going to use a whole number, okay? Because this is the most commonly used integer data type, okay? Int. All right. So now, guys, we're going to move on with the float. So float is a data type that is used with numbers with decimal, okay, decimal point. So if we're going to use, for example, numbers with decimal point, like money. So money has decimal point, right? For example, $10.95, right? So that's 10.95. So if you want to store that value in your program, so one of the data type that you can use is float, okay? So what is float? So float data type is a single precision 32-bit IEEE 754 floating point, okay? So this just means that the number that we're going to use here is with decimal point. Okay, so float is mainly used to save memory in large arrays of floating point numbers. Okay, so it's mainly used to save memory if we're going to talk about arrays. Okay, so what's the default value of float? The default value is 0.0f. Okay, so float data type is never used for precise values such as currency. Okay, so for example here, when you declare float variable, so let's say the name of the variable that you created is f1. So you created a f1 and the the data type is float and the value is 234.5. Okay, so that is an example of float. So next, guys, is double. Okay, so double data type is 64-bit. Okay, so this data type is also used for decimal numbers. Okay, double. So it is used as the default data type for decimal values. Generally, the default choice. So if we are going to use whole numbers, the most commonly used is int. Okay, but if we are talking about here decimal numbers, okay, decimal values, the default is double. Okay, so for you guys, if you're going to use numbers with decimal, so I recommend as well to use double. Okay, so double data type should never be used for values such as currency as well. So the default value of double is 0.0d. Okay, d means double. So example here, when you declare a variable double, so double d1 equals and then the value 123.4. Okay, so here's another tip, guys. When you declare a variable and for example you declare a double, okay, make sure that the value that you will put inside the double is a number that has decimal point. Okay, so make sure, because if you will not put numbers that has decimal point, there will be an error, okay? Because you use the data type double. So your number should have decimal point, okay? All right, the next one, guys, is Boolean, okay? But before we use Boolean, we discuss Boolean. So if we are going to use numbers with decimal point, the options are float and double, but you have to use double, okay, because that's the default, and that would be like easier for you to use, okay, if you will use double. So now guys, let's talk about Boolean. So Boolean data type, it represents one bit of information. It just tells us if the value is true or false. Okay, so if we declare Boolean, the only values that you can put in Boolean is true or false. Okay, or are true or false. So there are two choices. So this data type is used for simple flags that track true or false condition. So if we are going to use, if we are going to be on the point that we are not discussing the conditional statement, okay, so we're going to use more of this Boolean, okay? So the default value of Boolean is false, okay? So here another example on how you declare a variable named 1 and the data type is Boolean. So Boolean 1 equals true, okay? And then next guys is char. Char short for character, okay? Char or char, okay? So char data type is a single 16-bit Unicode character. So meaning here, guys, character is just one character, okay? For example, A, B, C, D, F, G, right? So you have to choose only one of those letters. For example, here, okay. So example, you declare car. So example here, guys, when you declare variable car, so let's say you declare here variable named letter A, and then the data type is car, and then the value is A. And you have to put it inside single quotation mark, okay? So the value should be inside single quotation mark, just like this one, okay? So that's car or char. So here, guys, I have here some like much more easier, like a table. So primitive data type, so we have byte, so the size is here. And then you can see the description as well. Okay, so you can just open this slide on your own if you want to see the description of this data types. Okay, all right, let's move on, guys. So that is the 8 data types, guys. Okay, so we have byte, short, int, and long for whole numbers. And for decimal numbers, we have float and double. And for true or false, we have Boolean. And for single character, we have char. Okay? So now, guys, let's move on with variable types. Okay? So what we discussed is data types, right? So now, let's move on with variables. So variable provides us with name storage that our programs can manipulate. Okay, so we will use variables in our program. Okay, mostly in our programs, we're going to use variable. Okay, so here I'm going to teach you guys how to declare a variable. Okay, so you see here, you must declare all variables before they can be used. For example, you want to use a variable about age, okay? So before you can use a variable age, you have to declare it first, okay? And this is the basic form of how you declare a variable, okay? So first is data type variable. Okay, first you have to determine what's the data type. Next is equal sign and then the value, okay? And then the variable and then equal sign and then value, okay? Okay, so that is how you declare a variable, okay? So now guys, let's continue to the next slide. So here, I have some examples of how you declare a variable in Java programming, okay? So here, for example, the first one, you declare an integer named ABC. So here you declare 3 variable. Okay, the first name is A, the second name is B, the third name is C. Okay, and then the second one here is int a, and then b equals 10. So here, what we did here on the second example is we declare two variables, a and b, and at the same time, we already created or we already initialized the value of a and b. So for a, we already put a value that is 10, and for b, we also put a value 10, okay? And then on the first example, guys, we only declare like A, B, and C, right? In A, B, and C, and there's no value. So we have a default value earlier, right? So the default value of in is 0. So when we declare A, B, C, so there's a value, default value of 0. And then the second one, we initialize already the value, okay? So the second one, you see example of initialization. All right. So every example here has a comment of what's happening. So here, third example, guys, we declare a byte named B, and the value is 22. Okay. So initializes a byte type variable B. And then the fourth example here is double pi, okay, equals 3.14159. Right? So if you're familiar with pi, so the value of pi is 3.14, right? So we can also use that value in Java programming, okay? So just like this, we declare the data type double because the value of pi is 3.14. It has decimal point, so we use double here. So the last example here is car A or char A. So whatever, however you want to read this. So char A equals A. It's inside single quotation mark. Okay, it's inside, and then the name of the variable is A. All right. So let's move on, guys. So this is the example of how you declare a variable. Okay. So next, guys, is the kinds of variables in Java. So there are three kinds. So the first one is local variables. The second one is instance variables. And the third one is class and static variables. All right, so let's discuss this one by one. So local variables, so they are declared in methods, constructors, or blocks. Okay, so local variables, meaning you can only access this locally. Okay, so if you declare it inside the method, so you can access it inside the method. All right. So local variables are created when the method, constructor, or block is entered, and the variable will be destroyed once it exits the method, constructors, or block. So meaning you can only use the local variables inside the method, and then after it exits the method, the variable will be destroyed. Okay? So here are some data about local variables information. So there is no default value for local variables. Okay? So local variables should be declared and initialize a value. So meaning local variables, it doesn't have a default value. So when you create local variable, make sure that you initialize a value for it. Okay? So that's local variables. So here is an example, guys. So as you can see, we created here a method called pop age, okay, or puppy age. Okay? So you see, first, the name of our class. So we created a class here named test. All right? And inside the test, we have, of course, we always have main method, right? But outside or before the main method, we created a method, okay, named popAge, okay? This is how you create a method, public void, and then the name of the method, and then open and close parentheses, okay? And then open bracket and close curly bracket, okay, or braces. And then inside the method pop age, so we declare an integer age, okay, and the value is 0. And then on the second line of code, we declare age is equals to age plus 7. So the first value of age is 0, so it will become age is equals to 0 plus 7. So 0 plus 7 is 7. So here, in this line of code, the variable age now has the value of 7. And then we will print it out. System.out.println puppy age is, and then age. So what's the value of age now? 7, right? So it should display puppy age is 7. All right, so that's the method. So now guys, in order for you to call that method or to use that method in our main method, okay, you see here public static void main. So in order for us to use this method pop age, we have to create an object, okay? And this is how you create an object in Java programming. First is you use the name of the class. The name of the class is test, right? You see, with capital T. And then this is the name of the object. And in this example, I named my object test also, okay? But it has a small or lowercase t, okay? So first, you call the name of the class with capital T test. And then you think of the name of an object. And then equal sign. And then you need this keyword, okay? New. New. And then the name of your class, which is test. And then open and close parentheses. And then semicolon, okay? So this is how you create an object in Java. First, again, you call the name of the class, and then you think of an object name. In this example, the object name is test with smaller t, and then equal sign, and then the keyword new, and then again the name of the class, which is test, but at the end you have to put open and close parentheses, okay, and then semicolon. And then after that, you can now use the test, the object test, to call the method pop age. Okay, you see, test dot and then pop age. All right, and when you run this, the value of or the output will be like this: puppy age is 7. Okay, so that is how you create a method, and that is how you call or create an object to call the method on the main method. Okay, so that is how you do it, guys. Okay, so later on I will try this example on the NetBeans so that you can understand it more, but for now let's proceed on our discussion. Okay, so here we're going to talk about instance variables. Okay, so instance variables are declared in a class. Okay, it's the let's go back. So the local variables, it's declared inside the methods, right? While instance variables, they are declared inside the class, but outside a method. Okay? So when a space is allocated for an object in the heap, a slot for each instance variable value is created. All right? So here, so instance variables are created when an object is created with the use of the keyword new. Okay, we used this earlier. And destroyed when the object is destroyed. All right. So that is instance variables. It's created inside the class. All right. So here, the instance variables are all or are visible for all methods, constructors, and blocks. So meaning, if we create an instance variable in a class, right? So meaning all methods can access it. Okay, it will be visible for all the methods in your program. Okay, so instance variables have default values, so it's okay if you will not initialize value on instance variables. All right, so the default value for numbers is 0. For booleans, the default is false. Okay, all right, so here, this is what we did earlier, right? We create an object name, and then we can call the variable or the method using that and then the name of the variable or the name of the method. All right, so here guys, I have some example. So it's a class named employee. Okay, so I will just explain this using this screen. Okay, so it's a class named employee. All right, the name of the class is employee, and then here we declare a string with the variable name. Okay, the name of the variable is name, and the data type is string. So string meaning you can store here words or letters. Okay, and it's in public. So meaning this instance variable is visible for any child class. And here we have private double salary. So salary is visible in employee class only. Okay, inside the employee only, because we put here private. Okay, and then public employee. So this is we created here a constructor. So public employee. So the name of the class is employee, and then string, and then emp name. So emp name or employee name, and then inside we declare name is equals to emp name. Okay, so here we have or created a method. Okay, we set salary. Okay, we created a method named set salary, and we assigned here the value double and employee salary or empsal, and then we put here salary is equals to empsal. So it's just like we added the value for name and the salary using these methods. Okay, and here we create another method named print emp. So this method prints the employee details. As you can see, it's just using system.out.println. And here is our main method. And in our main method, we create an object, right? You see, we use the name of the class employee. And then here we think of a name of an object. And here, what I use for the name of the object is emp1, and then equals, and then the keyword new, and then employee, right? And then open and close parentheses. But inside we put the employee name Ransika. Okay? So meaning this value Ransika will be transferred here in the EMP name. So the EMP name will become Ransika. And then Ransika will be equals to name. So basically the variable name will have the value Ransika. And then here we use the object again, emp1, and then we access the method set salary, this one public void, and then we put the value 1000 because here it's asking for a value. And then here we use the object to access the method print emp. Okay, and if we run this program, this will be the output name, because we put here name in system.out.println, and then the variable name, which is the value is Ransika, and then salary, and the variable name salary, which the value is 1000, and it has point zero because we use the data type double. Okay, double is for decimal numbers. Okay, so I think that's the end of our discussion for now, guys, because I know that it's a lot of information, and I believe that you guys are now confused on all the data and information that I mentioned. Okay, so now what's gonna happen here, guys, is I will show you some examples, okay, on our NetBeans IDE. So I will show you some examples so that you will understand it more, so that you can do the activity that I will give you later, okay? So now let me just wait for the loading because it's loading, and I don't know if it's still recording. Okay, okay, it's still. All right. So now, guys, I will show you some examples. Okay. So let me just open my NetBeans Apache. So let me just open it. Okay. All right. So here, guys, as you can see on my NetBeans here, I've already created a class named try to program. Okay. And then in this class, I've tried the example earlier, which is pop age. Okay. So as you can see inside of my class, I created first this method, public void. Okay, here I created a method. So this is how you create a method. Okay, public void, and then the name of the method. So you can change this name, whatever name that you want. Okay. So we discussed last time how to name a method, right? And then inside, okay, my open and close parentheses on my method pop age, I declared integer, the variable name is age, and then the value is 0. And then here, it's just like a mathematical equation. So age is equals to age plus 7. All right. So 0 plus 7. So the value of age now is 7. And then on print line, so I can just change it to maybe like, I will put it here, the age of the puppy is puppy, and then so this is like whatever that I put here inside this two quotation mark, okay, including the spaces, it will be printed, okay? And then since we want to add the value of age, so we can just space, and then if we want to add a value with a variable name, so we can just add here a plus sign and then the name of the variable, and the name of the variable is age. Okay, and then close parentheses and semicolon. Don't forget the semicolon at the end, okay? So here, our method pop age. So to know the name the age of the puppy, it's complete. So now in our, okay, let me just delete this so that I can show it to you. So in our main method, you see this main string args, right? Here, we're going to create an object. Okay, so how to create an object? First, you have to call the name of the class. So the name of my class is try to program. Okay, try to program, and then space, and then the name of the object. So any name, you can use it. So let's say I will use hit object name. All right, so that I can use any name, obj name or object name, and then equals, and then the keyword that we need is new. All right, and then the name of the class. So try to program, and then open and close parentheses, and then semicolon. All right, so this is how you create an object. So using this line of code, we already created an object named obj name. Okay, and then enter. So now we can now use this obj name to access our method pop age. So we can use it by typing the name of the object and then dot and then the name of the method, which is pop age. Okay, so in NetBeans it will appear here already, so you can just enter and you see there's no error. So if we run this file, guys, so let's run this. So right click and then run file. And then if we look here on the output below, okay, it's still running. So we shall wait for now. Okay, so let's make it bigger so that you can see it. All right, so guys, that is how you create an object. Okay, you have to remember that because that's really important here in Java, creating an object. So first, you have to call the name of your class. Okay, and then think of a name of an object and then equal sign. All right, and then after equal sign, the keyword new, and then again the name of your class, and then open and close parentheses, and then semicolon. Okay, so that is how you create an object in Java programming. Okay, so it's still loading, so we can just wait for it to finish running my program. Okay, so as you can see here, guys, this is the output here. Okay, so let me just charge it. Wait a minute, I'll just charge my laptop. Okay, so sorry about that. So here, as you can see, guys, it's displaying the system that out that I created. The age of the puppy is, okay. So that is how you create a method in Java programming in NetBeans. Okay, and that's how you create an object to access the method. Okay. So now, guys, I will show you some examples, other examples here that you can use to answer the activity. Okay, so let's delete the method that I just created, and let's just focus now on the main method. So I'm going to show you guys here because you need this on your activity for later. So let's say, guys, you want to add two numbers. Okay, so let's say you want to add one or two whole numbers. So for that, you have to declare two variables, right? So for example, we declare int, and then let's see, the name of my variable, the first variable or first number is num1, and then we can just put here the value, let's say 78, and semicolon, all right? And then create another integer named num2, and then equals, let's say 100, then semicolon, all right? So here we already have two variables, okay, for two numbers, num1 and num2. For example, we want to add these two numbers and we want to know the answer using Java program. So here we need to add another variable named maybe sum. So this will be the container of the answer, okay? So you can just int sum and then semicolon, okay? And then after that, you can now create the mathematical equation. So sum equals num1 plus num2, and then semicolon. All right, and then So here you already have num1 plus num2 and it will be saved in sum. So you can just system dot out dot print ln, and then you can put here the sum. Okay. Don't forget that double quotation mark. The sum of two numbers is, and then we can just space and then plus and then sum and then semicolon at the end. All right. So this is how you create a program to add two numbers. Okay. So you can just run this program. All right. So right click here and run the file. All right. And then as you can see, it will run the program that we just created. So we have to wait again. Oh, what's happening? All right. So that is how you add two numbers. Okay. Using Java program. So you just have to know what's the equation. For example, you want to multiply three numbers, right? So you have to declare three variables for the three numbers and then another variable for the answer. Okay, and then if you already declared the four variables, all the variables, you can now proceed with the mathematical equation that you have to do so that you can complete the multiplication of the three numbers. And in this example, guys, I'm only adding two numbers. And here, I am adding two whole numbers. Okay? But if you need to add numbers with decimal, like you have to use pi, so it should be in double. Okay? All right, so you see here, guys, build success. And the answer here is the sum of two numbers is 178. Okay? So that is how you add numbers using Java programming. Okay? So I'll just show you guys this example because if you want to subtract, then you just have to change the plus sign to minus sign. All right? Minus sign. And then if you want to multiply, just use the asterisk. Okay? If you want to divide, just use the forward slash. Okay? So that is the example, guys, of Java program for today. So now, let's go back to the Google Chrome for our discussion. All right. So let me just fix it. Let's just wait for it because, all right. So now, guys, let's move on now. Before we proceed, guys, on your activity for today, I want to ask you guys if you have any questions, so that I can help you. If you have any questions, um, let me know in the Google meeting. You can type your question in the Google meeting, okay? And then, if you don't have any questions, guys, okay, so here's what you're gonna do. If you have some questions, type your question in the Google meeting. And then if you don't have any questions, type number 1 in the Google meeting, okay? So type it now, guys. All right. So now, if you don't have any questions, guys, let's proceed and let's go back to your Google Classroom, okay? All right. So here, I've posted here, guys, your activity. So if you go down, okay, wait a minute. So if you go down, all right, here, it goes down. So you can see the activity 3.1 and you can open that by clicking the activity 3.1. And after you click it, guys, you can, okay, click it. After you click it, you will see this, and this will be your activity for today. So you need here the NetBeans IDE for the programming, because you will need to create method and object. And I'm not sure if method and objects will run on the online compiler of Java. So I would recommend you guys to use the NetBeans IDE in this activity. Okay, so let me just zoom in this activity so you can see it bigger and clearly. All right, so of course you have to put your name and your class and your number. So there are different parts in this activity. Part 1, you have to answer these questions. All right, these questions are based on the data types that we've discussed earlier. So here you have to add the correct data type for the following variables. Okay, you can see here the values here. So depending on the values here, what should be the data type? Okay, put your answer on the underlined part of the activity. So that's part 1. So part 2 is you have to create a program using your NetBeans IDE. Okay, so here is what's gonna happen, guys. So first program that you have to create, so create a program that will display the output of adding 5 numbers using a method. All right, so you can choose any number. So I've shown you an example earlier on how to create methods and how to create objects, so you can use that. And also I've shown you some examples of how to add 2 numbers, so you can use that as well. But instead of 2 numbers, you're going to add here 5 numbers, so you have to add 3 more variables, right? So earlier I've shown you like num1, num2. So if you need 5 numbers, then you have to add variables num3, num4, and num5 in your program. All right, so screenshot your program here, your code, paste it here, and then screenshot your output and paste it here. That's the first program. The second program, guys, is create a program that will calculate and display the area of a rectangle. All right, so the area of rectangle is length times width. All right, and here I've given values for length and for the width. So the value for the length is 101 and the value for the width is 56. So you have to create a program, guys, that will calculate the area of this rectangle. Okay, so take the screenshot of your code here and paste it here. Take the screenshot of your output and paste it here. So that's the second program that you have to create. And then next, guys, is so that you have to create a program that will display and calculate the area of a circle. So the formula of area of the circle is pi r squared, or pi times r. So the value of the pi is 3.14, and then for the value of r, you can choose any number. Okay, it's up to you what number you want to use for your radius or your r. All right, so that's the third program. You have to create a program that will calculate the value of area of a circle. So paste your screenshot your code and paste it here on this box, and then screenshot your output and paste it here on this box. Okay, so that is the third program that you have to create for your activity for today. So again, part 1, answer all these questions with what data types are this, and part 2, create those three programs that I've just explained. All right. So that's your activity for today, guys. And if you have any questions, because it's already like almost 1 hour speaking, so if you have any questions, just let me know on the Google meeting. I'll be there and I'll be on standby there, and I will be waiting in case you guys need some help, and if you need help, I'll be there to help you. Okay, so you can start now doing your work. Okay, good luck, guys.